Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahushai, Bahashum, Marachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, the old for elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Now, I just wanted to make a response, just to land back off the video that the elder Malcolm from the Chicago branch put up, in which his lesson, he's responding to this pastor by the name of Rich Tidwell, and he's going into the name origin of Rothschild and connecting it to Edom, the Edomite. And he's pretty much saying what we've already been saying. All right, starting with our elder apostles on down, this is what we've been teaching. And you could tell that, some of these pastors, they're secretly watching our videos and taking pointers and tips from our lessons and, putting it into their lectures. All right, but like the scriptures say in Wisdom of Solomon 5, they shall not make any account of his labors. All right, because it's going to be the men of the Lord who's going to be out there, making his knowledge known. Scriptures say that wisdom would be uttered in the streets, in the chief place of concourse. But anyway, I'm gonna play some of this clip where you're gonna hear this pastor go into it and break it down, and then I want to actually, add a bit more, to it, because you can also see the cultural correlation between the Ashkenazi group, that brand themselves as modern day Jewry, but they're descendants of the Khazarian Empire, which you can look that information up. Well, you're gonna have certain sources or certain websites that are set up to actually dismiss that particular information. They're going to say that it's not based in fact, there's no archaeological proof. But when you go into the historical aspect, there's cultural practices that were done by these people right before they were converted to Judaism in the 8th century that correlates with Baal worship. And this is the exact thing that we're finding out through those Epstein files, that the sexual immorality that goes on, the child sacrifices, fertility worship, phallic symbol worship, all that, you can trace that back to ancient Canaan. And it's said, based on history, that those Khazarians or the people of the Khazar Empire, that's what they were worshiping before they were forced to convert to Judaism. So I just wanted to make that cultural connection to show you who these people truly are. But anyway, let's get into it.
Say, Shield of Edom. Now, this is coming from actually the term Rothschild, and we're going to talk about that today. We've kind of been on a series after the Epstein files release on Epstein and the end times and the synagogue of Satan. And this is a continuation of that series where...
So now the cat is out of the bag, all right? Is ever since them files got released, saying it's like something has happened to where now people, it's motivating people to want to go into more information about these people, right? And hey, how, like it says in Obadiah, how are the things of Esau searched out, and how are his hidden things sought up? Well, to correlate that, to quote Proverbs 12 and 19 in the NLT, which states that a lying tongue is but for a moment, or Shalakia, I believe it goes The truth stands the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. All right, roughly paraphrasing when you look it up in the NLT, Proverbs 12 and 19. All right, and that's how the things of Esau are being searched out and his hidden things sought up. Is because the truth that have been without fruit is being declared. And we've been bringing these things out, you know, for decades, you know, starting with our elder apostles and bishops on down. All right, and even, you know, primarily the one Westers been bringing all this information out. All right, so you connect the dots. How could you conclude that these people are of Japhetic origin? They just because they came from a land that was formerly or originally occupied by the Japhetic people doesn't make them of Japhet. All right, these devils migrated everywhere because they're Khazars. The word Khazar means wanderer. All right, which is another way of saying a traveler. Okay, they're straight up vagabonds, so they're everywhere, and they hide their true identity through fake identities. All right, so let's continue.
We'll be discussing these connections. In fact, if you don't know this, in the Epstein emails, Epstein wrote Peter Thiel, who is the founder of Palantir, the surveillance company that's going to play a major role here in these last days. And he said, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. And that's a very key piece of information, because what that means is there is a hierarchy to this synagogue of Satan and to these group of people who are serving the devil here on earth and creating a vast network, right? How is the Antichrist going to obtain control of such a large portion of the...
And what this is, because this is an Edomite pastor airing out who these other devils are. This is Satan casting out Satan. All right, Esau, he's divided. His kingdom is divided, so they're constantly warring with each other, and they're outing each other. And that's was that Psalms the 64th chapter, the 8th verse. Then shall he cause their own tongue to fall upon themselves. That's what's happening. So this is how this devil is being revealed before his fall, man. The man of sin.
The earth. Well, there's a lot of groundwork that has to be done in advance. The surname Rothschild originates from German, meaning red shield. Now, most people know that. Okay, most people realize that the Rothschilds are Ashkenazis, they're German Jews, and that they're
Ashkenazi. All right, which you trace majority of them, they come from out of the Khazarian Empire. All right, or the state of Khazaria, which is in modern day Turkey. Okay, now for cultural reference, let's go here real quick. DrAssad.com. This is from a piece published in 2013, all right, from a professor, and this is what it says. It says, this is not a play on words, but are historical facts stemming from the history of Khazars who took the Ashkenazi name after converting to Judaism in 8th century. These facts appear widely on the web, especially in the Jewish encyclopedia published by the Reform JEWs of America in 2007 or 2007. The Khazars created one of the largest states in medieval Eurasia, with its capital Idil in the present-day Ukraine. It says it commanded the trade routes which became known as the Silk Road between China and Europe, in a buffer state between the Christian Byzantine Empire and the newly established Arab Umayyad state. It was employed by the Byzantine Empire to wage wars in 642 AD against the Umayyads, who represented a dire threat against Constantinople, all right, which is modern day Turkey. All right, it says Istanbul, Turkey. It says those Khazars were very well paid during the Arab Khazar wars. Suddenly, the Khazars' royalty and much of their aristocracy decided to convert to Judaism. 3 reasons were behind their decision. One was that Judaism has strict rules represented in the Talmud, which became essential to reform the extreme immorality, the same immorality that we see in them today, of the Khazars who used to worship the male phallic symbol in their temples. And now we know that particular practice was actually practiced as a common form of worship among the Baal cult worship. The Baal cult worshippers, they were worshiping the phallic symbol. All right, because Baal was the male counterpart to the fertility goddess Asherah or Ashtoreth. And you read about that all throughout the scriptures, where it talks about Baal and Ashtoreth, because Israel fell into that as well. They became part of that cult worship, erecting Asherah poles, and that's the modern day stripper pole, right? But you also had that when they would worship Baal, they would have erected images or standing images, and that represented an erected rod. All right, and that was the symbolic representation of the male god of fertility, Baal. So that's what they were into, going back to Canaanite worship. So you see, it comes back full circle, because that's what the elite, this hierarchy of men, that's what they worship, as seen in the Epstein files. All right, the child sacrificing and all that is what it all originates and goes back to. So you see traces of that cultural practice and worship in the Khazars, and this is who the Ashkenazis go back to. See that? So I wanted to bring that out, just to make that connection. All right, and let me go here real quick. This is in the Watchtower library. For you got the we call it Jehovah Witness, but the Jehovah Witness, they have a library, right? And this is just some information, all right, to bring, make more of a point. It says down here, it says the justice of the Most High's prophetic curse on Canaan found full confirmation in the conditions that had developed in Canaan by the time of the Israelite conquest. Yahweh had allowed 400 years from Abraham's time for the era of the Amorites to come to completion. Genesis 15:16, the iniquity of the Amorites was not yet full, the fullness of them. It says the fact that Esau's Hittite wives were a source of bitterness of spirit to Isaac and Rebekah, because remember, the Lord did not want the seed mingled among them. That's why it was in our law not to give our sons unto their daughters and their daughters unto our sons, because it would take away the heart of the sons of Israel away from the Most High. All right, and he didn't want Isaac and Rebekah. They did not want their sons to marry a Canaanite woman. So Jacob, he followed the instruction, but of course, what did Esau do? He went and married some Canaanite women, Hittite women. So you better believe he got influenced, under that religion, their cultural practices. He was under that influence. So you better believe they carried that over. They took from that. They absorbed from it, just like they absorbed from Egyptian worship and cultural practices as well. The rituals, the sacrifices and all that, they took on that. And that's why it was very prevalent amongst the Greeks, all right, when they begin to Hellenize the world. All right, they took on Egypt and colonized it. And of course, because we know Egypt is a Greek word, all right, Egyptus, which means bondage, but we know that was originally the land of Martezarium. So Esau came and he renamed it Egypt, and that's an anachronism. So Esau always took from other cultural identities. All right. So continuing on, it says to the extent that Rebekah had come to abhor her life because of them is certainly an indication of the badness already manifest among the Canaanites. During the centuries that followed, the land of Canaan became saturated with detestable practices of idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. The Canaanite religion was extraordinarily based and degraded, their sacred poles and sacred pillars evidently being phallic symbols, and many of their rites at their high places involving gross sexual excesses and depravity. Incest, sodomy, and bestiality were part of the way of the land of Canaan that made the land unclean, and for which error it was due to vomit its inhabitants out. Dealing with the Canaanites, and why the Lord commanded Israel to go and get them up out of there. And then you can also read Wisdom of Solomon 12. It goes into detail. It says magic, spell bending, spiritism, and sacrifice of their children by fire were also among the Canaanites' detestable practices. All right. So Esau definitely assimilated into that. And that's why it's prevalent among them now. All right. And then we read back to how the Ashkenazis, before they converted to Judaism, all right, during the Khazarian Empire, they were worshiping the phallic symbol in their temples. All right. So just to make the cultural connection, these got to be those people. All right. So let's go back to the video, because now he's breaking down Rothschild, and he said that these were Ashkenazi family. They just, sprang from out of Frankfurt, Germany. Let me run it back.
Is the Antichrist going to obtain control of such a large portion of the earth? Well, there's a lot of groundwork that has to be done in advance. The surname Rothschild originates from German, meaning red shield. Now, most people know that. Okay, most people realize that the Rothschilds are Ashkenazis, they're German Jews, and that their last name means red shield. They've been around for a long time. They played a major role in the facilitation and founding of the current modern state of Israel, and we're going to talk about that today. But here's the part that people don't know, and we're going to make a lot of connections. So today's sermon is really going to cover not just the Rothschild family, but this long-term connection from Edom all the way to the Antichrist in the last days. Oh. And I want you guys to see these key connections.
In other words, Edom would be the last remaining nation that will be on top, that will be in power when the Lord returns. That's why it says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? Because Edom is going to be the one in position, and all the other nations that follow suit up under this devil. All right, they're all going to go down right along with him.
When it's translated into Hebrew, based on its etymological meaning, it corresponds to Magan Edom. Okay, what do I mean by that? The term Rothschild, that family name, means Magan Edom in Hebrew. Now, some people say it means red shield in Hebrew as well. Well, the problem with that is that the word for red and the word for Edom in Hebrew is the exact same word. Okay? The exact same word. And so Magan Edom would be translated into English.
Now, the word Roth is German Yiddish for red. So when you translate from the English red back to the Hebrew, it would be Adawam, right? And then, of course, shield goes back to the Hebrew word Magan, all right? So you put it together, yeah, Magan Adawam, which means a red shield, or Edom shield of Edom. So that's actually on point. And the elder apostles, they were the first that I've heard bring this information out before this video even came out years ago. So I wonder if these men are, guys like this is secretly subscribed to one of the elder apostles' pages, or one of their older pages or something. All right, for him to be able to put that together. But either way, hey, the truth is going out. Just to quote Proverbs 12 and 19 again. All right, when you read it in the NLT, it says that the truth, the truth stands the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. All these devils' lies, everything that they woven and covered over the nations with, is all being peeled back and exposed. That covering cast over nations, that's the lies. You know, the web together lies of deception, deceit that they cast over the world and brought the world under darkness, man. Because they're the rulers of the darkness of the world. They control all the information, the education, all right, the media sources. They control it all. So they can say what they could put out what they want. But the truth is hey, the truth endures forever, man. So they're being heavily affected by all this information coming out. And this is why they want to regulate the internet. All right. They want to shut it all down and regulate it so that certain information don't get out there. But it's too late. All right, this truth then reached the four corners of the earth, and now your world is beginning to fall.
Shield of Edom, or the shield of the Edomites. And so the Rothschild family are the shield of the Edomites. Now, that's going to be significant as we dive into this, but if you watch my sermon, Epstein and the Canaanites, you might already be making some connections.
And I just made some of the connections, all right? When you go back to the history, all right, most of those, the modern jury, majority of them, they identify as Ashkenazi. We know Kanaz goes back to Japhet, right? But because that was one of the sons of Japhet, but they took that word, okay? But no, these were actual Edomites who came out of the Eastern Europe, you know, Central Eastern Europe and Russian region, okay? And they started to take on the identity of the small hat once they converted. All right, but we know that Yahweh, Judah, was dispersed among all the nations. We know that the Lord warned that Israel would be dispersed. They would be led captive into all nations until the time of the Gentiles would be fulfilled. When you read Ezekiel the 36th chapter, it said that who will be in the land? Who will be possessing the land? Idumea in the residue of the heathen. So you can't get around this, man. These is all facts. The fact that this whole Epstein thing, it cracked open a lot. They worship Baal, which goes back to Canaan worship. All right, and you see that the Khazarians, based on historical accounts, that there were traces of those Canaanite Baal cult worship practices among the Khazars before they converted. So you can't make this up. But I'll play a little bit more of this and we'll close.
In 1917, Lionel Walter Rothschild was the recipient of the Balfour Declaration from Britain. This is a pretty famous document, which stated His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. So the British government tells the Rothschild family, we support you in founding a Jewish nation. In other words, in creating a new Israel.
And once they did that, they said, aha, you know, the land is ours in possession. That's exactly what they did. They came out with the Balfour Declaration, and from there, history was made for them. All right. Let me get that in Ezekiel. Is it Ezekiel 35 or it might be 36? I think it's 35. But this is one of them. I think it's in the next chapter. Ezekiel 35:10. This is a prophecy cursing out Edom. Right? And the Lord basically warning what he's going to do with them. Ezekiel 35:10, it says, because thou hast said these two nations and these two countries, meaning the north and the south, shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. All right. And that's exactly what they did. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. And the Lord's getting ready to do it. Right now, he got all you nations over there lined up, preparing for war. And you devils over there, you're the reason why the Babylonian Edomite, Babylon and their armies getting ready to be drawn out to come over there to fight in that war that nobody's going to win. Okay? Because the Lord's going to gather you there so he can judge you. That's why it's known as the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the Most High Yahweh Shaphat, which means judgment. Yahweh's judgment. Gonna judge all you nations over there, their armies. Get rid of all you and bring your empire down. All right. And it says, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, they are laid desolate, they are given us to consume. Yep. Ezekiel 36:1, it says, also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord power, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. And the Rothschilds, they helped to make it happen, you know, through the British army. And they was able to do what they did. All right. They had that war, that Second World War, and they were successful with it. And it set them in position to be able to inherit. They didn't go in and just walk in, and the Lord miraculously or supernaturally brought them back. You know, that's not how it went down. It says, therefore prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord power, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that you may be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and you are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people. Therefore, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord power. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. All right. So that's what happened, man. And now you can connect the dots. All right. The truth is blowing them devils up, man. It's blowing their cover. All right. And that's why this devil's going to want to move with. That's why he's moving with violence, man. Like it says in Revelation 12, the devil shall come down having great wrath, knowing that he have but a short time. All right. All this is coming out is because he has but a short time. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to end the lesson right there in the hope that y'all were edified. I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.